Hey, Winston, do you ever get people asking you if you know anything about computers?
All the time. All the time.
What do you tell them?
Just tell them I don't know anything. Then because everyone will fix the computers.
I'm not going to fix your computer. So I guess you figured out the cat's out of the bag. We know something about computers, especially Winston. And this week's show is going to be all about computers. So let's go to it. All right.
Yeah.
So
let's do.
Let's start something off here. We like to hear about what each other, what we've been doing every single week. And I think that this week you have been loving your Canada Goose jacket. Why did you buy that jacket?
Well, I've been looking at it for a while, talking about last year, and I looked at the prices in Hong Kong. They were like stupid extortionate prices in Hong Kong because everything have to be shipped over, right? So, but then of course Canada Goose. Where does it come from? Canada, right? So since I'm in Canada, and of course the prices, although they're quite high, it's actually what people wear in the Arctic and the Antarctica expeditions, and people wear that to keep warm, and like minus, I don't know, 50, 60, 70s. If they can keep warm in those temperatures, I thought, okay, I'm in Canada now. There's a good chance I might go to Banff. It's one of these scenic places up in the north where you get
it's just outside of Canmore. It's it's a couple hours away from Calgary. So it's a really nice place.
It gets really cold up there, so I thought, okay, this is a really good investment because I'm going to be wearing it for quite a number of years. Keep warm, and you have some crazy winters in Canada, right? So especially if you ever go to Toronto, it goes like minus like 20, 30. So okay, this is it. I thought I'm going to invest in it, and I did it, and that was it. I never looked back.
Well, I'd hate to break it to you, but you're gonna need to make one more investment.
All right,
that's called an Arcteryx jacket. Have you heard of them?
I heard of that, but how good are they compared to Canada Goose? Tell me.
Well, Canada Goose has the national or the worldwide brand recognition, but Arcteryx is what's worn by people that basically have spent their life savings on one jacket in Vancouver. This is the status symbol.
Oh, right.
Not Canada Goose. It's the Arcteryx jacket in Vancouver. If you have an Arcteryx jacket, you are rich.
All right, I'm gonna stop saving again. Okay, I'm gonna have to sell my cryptos and start saving and buy.
Well, you're gonna need to sell some because those jackets are not cheap. I'll tell you a funny story. Is I have an Arcteryx jacket in the family, but it's not my jacket.
Oh, it's passed down.
It's not my jacket. Actually, it's a brand new jacket, and it was from an influencer campaign that I did a little while ago. Not directly through Arcteryx, but it was a camping trip with, like the 5 Dads Go Wild camping trip.
And
one of the co-sponsors was actually, funny enough, Arcteryx had some jackets from samples that they were done with, and they wanted to see if we wanted to have them for our trip, just to kind of wear, just kind of put in the lifestyle setting, right? So. Nothing fit me, obviously, because everyone else grabbed the other sizes, and I was left with an extra small puffy jacket, women's.
Well, you can give it to
right?
You. What?
So I gave it to my daughter. So my daughter has the Arcteryx jacket.
She'd be rocking it and say, "Hey, check it out!"
Right?
Put your stuff on Instagram.
And as soon as I didn't know how much it was worth. Like, I'm like, Arcteryx, it's got to be like $300 or something like that. Wrong. This jacket was $600. Wow. So my daughter is running around out there in a $600 jacket. And you know what's funny is that she was at a mall recently where all the rich people go, and everyone's like, "Ooh, I liked your jacket." And she told me that. I'm like, don't get used to it. This is a one-off.
One-off. I didn't buy it either.
One-off. I didn't buy it for you. Daddy earned it. But not with his money.
I'm talking about shopping. Okay, so where do you get your computer stuff from in Canada? Because I only see Best Buy.
Yeah.
Is it Canada Computers?
Canada Computers is going to be the most common place for you to buy computers in the Lower Mainland.
Okay.
There's other great computer stores as well too. If you're closer to Abbotsford or Chilliwack, Mike's Computer Store is also great. A lot of the actually, at least a couple of the NCIX people have gone there to work. I don't know if they're still there anymore, but that's a really good, reputable computer shop that has good staff, good heart. Like the old school NCIX when they used to care.
Yeah.
You know, before they
tell me a
went
little
under.
bit about that story. And is it NCIX? Yeah,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about that, because weren't they one of the biggest Canadian computer companies in Canada back then? Quick story.
I would probably say that in terms of name brand recognition, they were probably globally recognized. Like I know there's another company called Scan in the UK.
Yeah, that's
right?
quite big. Yeah.
NCIX was the global leader in content and also getting people to love the brand. Everyone like legitimately loved NCIX as a result of what Linus did for them.
Because he worked there, didn't he? Right? Linus.
He worked there. He was doing buying for them. He was doing all the buying for water cooling, cases. He was doing most of that stuff. Like when we did our little collab through Kingston HyperX, when that was the year that I won the PC building championship. So they wanted fast memory and they wanted me to come on and do a thing with them. So I'm like, okay, whatever, that's fine. I saw him just have spreadsheets out. All he was doing was buying. It wasn't about content or anything like that. His day job was to buy things. Right.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that he could do what he did and do that at the same time was phenomenal. But you know, like eventually, what happened is that, and this is something that Linus told us years later on his own channels, is the fact that he started to have disagreements with the owner, Steve Wu, and these disagreements were fundamentally about how the business was run, how the community was treated, and how stock was never in the stores anymore, right? So eventually what happened is that Linus stopped being a buyer and he just basically, he took the YouTube channel with him for a fee, which, you know, looking back then was way too little. And that would be his business, but he would still work on the NCIX channel until which time that they would end that relationship, right? So he took off on his own. But, you know, like after Linus left, a lot of the things that he predicted would happen, which was the collapse of NCIX, did happen. So
is that because of the lack of business at the time, or was it the direction of the company was just going differently and didn't work?
There were a number of things, mostly because NCIX had a division in the US, called NCIX US. And if you're a Canadian retailer, you have to kind of play ball on both sides of the border correctly. So what had happened,
taxes and stuff like that, right?
Not just taxes, is that in Canada, you have basically agencies or distributors.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if one company in Canada distributes Intel, you can't turn around and start a company in the US and distribute those CPUs back over the border to yourself.
Okay,
you can't do things like that, right? You have to play correctly on this side.
You have to get through the country's own distributors, because otherwise there's conflict. This is the conflict. Yeah.
There's a certain amount of CPUs that are allocated to this country, right? So, and there's a certain amount they're allocated down there. And there's also the currency as well, too. You buy for that price. That's the price down there. You buy at the price up here. Yeah. You just have to live with it, right? Because you have to make good with the distributorships up here. If you undercut them, or if you do anything to them, you're going to hear about it. Yeah. So, you know, like distributors immediately started to, you know, cut off NCIX. Credit lines were starting to, you know, dry up. And this is kind of paraphrasing. There was a lot more at stake than this. And then I think what happened is that Steve Wu went to China to try to borrow money to keep the business afloat.
All right. So basically, mismanagement, right?
It was mismanagement. It was a vision that could never be fulfilled. There was also, and I was hearing about this, there was a bit of cronyism happening, where it was like relatives would be in positions that they were not supposed to be in because they weren't qualified for the job. Yeah. And, you know, it happens with any family that you want to make good with the family, and you know, like it's honor and stuff like that. And it's very much so in a Chinese family, because then you dishonor your relative, and it's a tough thing, right? Yeah, in business, right? Because you kind of want to keep it clean, but all that contributed to the downfall of NCIX.
So right now you have Best Buy and Canadian Computers. And
no, we do not have Best Buy. We do not have Best Buy. Best Buy is not a real computer store.
Actually, I went there. It's basically a massive warehouse of consumer products, TVs and kitchenware and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's all.
What was that place called? Fortress in Hong Kong. It's kind of like that.
Right. Yeah.
Right, where it's
basically,
like it's like consumer stuff.
Yeah,
hardcore stuff, sort of. If you want to be a PC enthusiast in Canada, you have to order from either Canada Computers, Memory Express, or Newegg Canada. Newegg Canada kind of started falling out of favor these days, mainly because of their weird policies over motherboards and stuff like that. We can get into
RMAs,
RMAs, they're not very good.
Yeah, in fact, I had the previous show that I did for my site. One of the viewers said that he actually ordered a brand of motherboard. I won't say which brand. And because of the reviews and the content that I actually provided, he went ahead and bought that. And it turns out to be a dead on arrival.
Yes.
And he tried to get that board back with the RMA and all that kind of stuff, and they're not accepting it. But now I think they had a major complaint about stuff like that. And now he's actually getting maybe some credit, like, money back. Not physically money back, but like, credit. Say, oh yeah, this is say worth $200. You can buy other stuff with that voucher or a coupon, whatever.
Yeah.
But, Newegg Canada, huh?
Yeah, they're not, I hate to say it, but they're not what am I saying? The level of customer service the Canadians expect is not coming from Newegg. In fact, most of the time you get better service just by buying it directly from Amazon.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, in fact, when I talked about some of the stuff I was going to rebuy for my testing rig, I say 50% of that stuff is actually on Amazon. Yeah. So I had to buy a PCIe 4 riser cable for the graphics card to mount vertically.
Yes,
I got that off Amazon. I bought a vertical case, open chassis case, again, Amazon. So,
yeah, it's just so much easier to buy from there because of Amazon Prime and everything. Every single computer company is on there with some listing of some kind.
That's right.
Even if it's not in stock. So it's just so much more convenient. It makes it very difficult for Canada Computers to survive, mainly because they just have everything. Like, I feel bad for them, but at the same time, though, they never had the experience that NCIX community had when it was the good old days of the NCIX.com YouTube channel. Like, all of that really mattered to consumers because they weren't just buying a part. They were buying a part because of someone.
Because of the brand. Because they recognize the brand name, right? And
the people.
That's right.
NCIX Esther, as well too, because all the geeky guys loved her. She was actually really good. Actually, she was very knowledgeable. And you have to give her credit. She was extremely, she was a good presenter in a lot of respects, right? Same with all the other people that came after. Like that team was really good at making people want to care about the company, and it's just too bad that they flushed it all down the toilet.
Hey, never mind. You've got us now, okay?
That's right.
It's our podcast show at gmail.com. And leave any comments down and, of course, give us a like and share our content.
I'll put the whole thing down there just in case you can't find it. Now, we were talking about motherboards a little bit ago, and I think that, since this is our computer show, I think one of the things that sparked my interest in basically DIY and everything was my very first not built system. My very first motherboard that I basically took and upgraded an existing system. And that was an Asus motherboard that actually had a Pentium 166 MMX.
Pentium 166 MMX. Yeah. For the guys who don't know what MMX means, is multimedia extensions. So seriously, that's what it meant. MMX.
Yes. And this was the first CPU that I came across because I was doing some research on the internet. And back then, the internet was much more pure and factual. And I came across this article from a friend of ours, a mutual friend, Thomas Papst.
Okay.
At Tom's Hardware, the original Tom's Hardware, where he was still in charge. And he had this excellent overclocking guide for that board and that CPU, because all you needed to do was jumpers.
Yeah.
And guys, that was really
for you guys who don't know what a jumper is, basically on the motherboard, on the PCB board that you see, there are two little pins, right? Two little pins, like I know they're found on the boards, and by switching a little plastic kind of connector from one to the other end, you can actually increase the speed from say 100 megahertz to 133 megahertz, or 66 to 100 megahertz. So by just placing that little plastic connector to the other side, that's how a jumper works. Yeah, there we go. Continue.
And these days, you still need jumpers for clearing your CMOS. Most of the time, it's not a button yet. Most of the motherboards out there still use a clear CMOS pin. So you just take it off, put it back on, clear the CMOS. Your BIOS is back to default. You go in, whatever you screwed up, you fix. So this motherboard had, because of what I read from Tom's, I was able to take this and they sold the next step up CPU, the 233 megahertz version of it, as well. So the fact that I was able to take the 166 MMX and overclock it to 250, which is way over spec, and it ran stable most of the time, was amazing to me, because I didn't have to pay the premium to go faster. I just basically read this valuable piece of information from Mr. Thomas Paps, which I've met. You know, like he's a cool guy, actually. He's very cool, but he has, you know, like he has such a wealth of information. He's a doctor, for goodness sake, right? He taught me something so valuable, and I think that's the reason why I love computer stuff, because everyone's just willing to share, you know, and that's what led me to do a lot of the things that I do. Same with you, Winston.
Yeah, so how I started was basically a PC perspective, right? So not talking about Commodore 64s, Amigas, and consoles. From the PC standpoint, my first one was the 286, and that was fixed. Back then, 286s were just soldered onto the board. You can't take it out. And it was just more of an educational tool that my uncle had. So my uncle upgraded to a 386, like you said. But you had the DX version, which is basically
it was the
two
good
versions. Yeah, the SX version basically had no co-processor, but the DX has a co-processor, which means runs faster. Yeah, right.
Co-processor, daughter board, the works.
That's right. So he had the upgraded to DX 386, and then once he finished his college, I was still in my teenage years then, and then I picked his old computer up, and that's when I started playing around. And I looked into it, I researched it, I looked at the old magazines, says, hey, you can get yourself a nice graphics card. And back then, PC graphics card were monochrome. And you had to buy a CGA, color graphics adapter. And that'll give you 16 colors. Wow, right?
Wow.
If you want to go advanced, you go the EVGA, which is enhanced graphics adapter. And that gives you, I believe, 256 colors, is around there. And then you got the I think it was SVGA, was super video graphics adapter. That'll give you like I think 4,960 colors.
They were ISA slots, right? The white slots.
ISA slots.
ISA, first. Right?
Yeah. So ISA, I can't remember
it's ISA or ISA.
Yeah, ISA. Yeah, and this is the PC days. And by doing upgrading, buying different components, put in, and making your PC run faster or have more graphics or stuff like that, or have more memory, I found that really fascinating, because you don't have to buy a whole new computer. You could just like buy a component and fit it in, and you actually get better performance by just adding a component. And that's how I got into PCs. But of course, back then, PC components were really super expensive. And like I said, you started off with Doom, with the Pentium, right? And I said, okay, I'm going to get the Pentium because of the Doom. And I had the 386 already, and then they went on to 486s. Again, the 486s had, that's the previous, before Pentium, 486s. And I actually bought my first PC myself, a 486 SX. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford the DX version. And then I skipped Pentium. And then I went on to the Pentium 2, which I couldn't afford, and that's why I got
the slot kit. Was that right?
The slot kit.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that because it was too expensive, and I got myself the AMD. In my previous show, I mentioned about that. Hey, why get a Pentium 2 which costs like $1,000 when you can get an AMD chip for like $400, overclock it, and get the same speed as the Pentium 2? So AMD, I love you. Okay. And then I didn't look back afterwards because that's it. Because PC components is where you buy all the components, fit it all in, more performance, just buy more and just fit
now.
it,
Did
just
you
place it.
with your Slockit, your first Slockit? Did you also have the Abit BH6 board?
Abit, yeah, Abit is another brand which is gone now. But back then, Abit was one of the premium. I would say premium in terms of cost, but everybody went for the Abit boards because they overclock so well. Yeah, so well. And BH6, that's the one. Yeah.
That was the one for me as well too. That was odd because that board, that was when we would disassemble the Slockit, we would actually yank the plastic casing off. And this is my first foray into actually cooling, because back then we would have there was this company in town that was just on the cutting edge of CPU cooling. Their company was called AMK Services. They used to cut holes in the tops of cases, and they would sell them to people in Vancouver. But they were also one of the first companies to create brackets that allowed you to mount what these were called. They were called the alpha coolers, which are these ginormous blocks of aluminum with a fan on it onto the Slockits. So that allowed me. That was what allowed me to, even though it blocked pretty much everything on the board, that allowed me to cool a Slockit and overclock the snot out of it. And I don't remember what my top speeds were, but back then, like a 300 megahertz CPU Slockit, Pentium 2 Slockit, that was pretty awesome. The fact that you can bring it up to 450.
450, yeah, that was the target.
That was the target,
speed.
And anyone could do it, which was amazing. And again, like sites like Anan, Tom's Hardware, they were sharing this information for free. It was taking and some people at Intel thought that they were taking money out of their pockets.
Yeah, and this is how Intel started to think, hey, hold on, you guys out there are overclocking our chips, getting that performance. Yeah. Why don't we take this idea and then start the Intel Extreme? This is where another branch of their business is because of the overclocking. So they took that as an opportunity and improved on that. And that's what you get now with the Turbo Boost. The Turbo Boost technology that you see in Intel processors are all thanks to the early overclocking days, and how Intel decided to take that technology or that community and bring it in to their focus. Yeah.
I'm glad they did, because for the longest time they fought against overclockers.
That's it. Right? They were making chips to have a overclocking limit. They would put limits on the clock speed, because they were like thinking, oh, you're not going to overclock our chips. So they put like microcodes in the chips to block people from overclocking it.
There was such opportunity, but again, they're a huge corporation, and sometimes the top doesn't see the bottom. But I'm glad someone talked some sense into them, because now that legacy is with Intel, right? Even though some of us might like AMD better because they still provide better value in some cases. For the most part, like if you get an Intel, if you can afford an Intel, you really can't go wrong. But you get more value still with AMD.
That's right, yeah.
For sure. So, I mean, and the show, obviously, it's still self-funded, guys. We're only on episode 2, Winston?
That's right, episode 2.
So, I guess the only way that you can support us, if you don't have money, and neither do we, we're not putting any money into the show at the moment, except for our time and our experience, but you can just subscribe to us. That's all you need to do for now. Just, hit the subscribe button so that we can let you know about the next episode coming up. That's all you got to do. And if we did a really good job on this episode, give us a like. Let us know that we're doing a good job, because that means so much to us. And leave a comment. Your comments make sure that our next shows get even better. So if you don't like the way that I wear a hat, or Winston, you don't like Winston's HyperX headphones or something, let us know. We'll change. Please, let us know. Yeah. Oh, man. So going down the list of OG PC hardware, and we talked about a few things already. We talked about my favorite P166 MMX. I think we both had a BH6. I mean, going back to the OG hardware, what was your favorite case?
Chief Tech.
You remember that? The beige one?
The beige one. That case,
it's not the Inwin, is it?
It looks like very similar to an InWin. Yes, very similar to InWin, but InWin have gone really premium now, right? But Shiftech is the original kind of OG beige box that everybody uses for their PCs, and I just modded the hell out of it, right?
Did yours have wheels?
I didn't have wheels, but what I did was I drilled the outlets for the fan.
Yes.
I drilled 2 at the top. I put 1 in the front, and then the side panel again. I cut the whole damn thing out and just put a perspex kind of window. Okay. Right. That was the first case that I did just to play around with. And the motherboard, I went with. We had Abit. Abit was good, but also another brand. I think it was. Is it
Soltech? Was around back then?
Soltech. Yeah, I believe it was Soltech, and also the Abit. And then the CPU, of course, AMD, because that was cheap, and also you can overclock it on a juicy board as a more expensive premium board. Then I'll probably go for an Intel. And the RAM, I think we didn't have RAM brands as exclusive back then.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Kingston RAM, yes, and we had Samsung RAM, but they didn't have any heat sinks on it or anything like that. So the RAM were really just simple, like Samsung or Hynix, that kind of stuff. And then VGA card, of course, you mentioned SLI with the Voodoo and stuff like that. So I had one of those. I had a really, I think it was a Matrox, not a G400, the 200. As the 2D graphics card. Yeah. And then I put the Voodoo as an additional for the graphics. And that is my setup for back then by myself. I but it worked okay. And later on, I added very first water cooling. So before the water cooling, I had a nice heat sink. It was I think it was Thermaltake Orb that looked like the Golden Orb, they call it.
Kenny's Orb.
But they were extremely difficult to mount, and I've had a few instances where I actually cracked the die on the CPU. Yeah. I did that myself. I thought, oh no, I have to buy a new chip. But the cooling performance on those orbs are really good, and then I moved on to the water cooling afterwards. But that's my setup.
That orb, that was actually an industrial design piece from I think it was the old school HP. They actually had these orbs in the industrial setup. And then
for the servers, I believe, yeah,
and I guess Kenny got a hold of it because in Taiwan they build everything pretty much, right? So he was able to find OEM it and make it different colors and bring it to North America, right? Because back then, Thermaltake wasn't really Thermaltake that we know today. It wasn't a multi-million-dollar esports company, right? It was just some guy with a golden orb and some thermal paste. That was his only product, and I know there's a lot of haters on Thermaltake, but man, you know what? It takes a lot of effort to come to the market and to build it and to influence it, right? I mean, we can't forget their contribution, no matter how you feel about them today.
I mean, right? I still love Thermaltake products. In fact, my case, my power supply, and in fact, some of my water cooling stuff. In fact, you see that right there? That is an all-in-one cooler, which is a liquid cooling system with a thermal temperature sensor on both the CPU block and the RAM. And there's a radiator built in with the 240 fans, 120 fans by times 2, so you get 240. Yeah. And that's all-in-one. You just mount that in and away you go. But they make some really interesting products, all RGB, stuff like that. So I'm happy with that. Yeah.
They were one of the first ones to put colorful graphics. Like I remember my first, oh man, do you remember this thing? It was called the Landfire case.
Oh,
it had this fire flame up the middle, and you could dial it in. And then you have cold cathodes. That was I reviewed that so long ago.
Yeah, cold cathode, because before RGB they didn't have LEDs that would do different colors, so they had to get cold cathode tubes with different colors.
That's right.
You can get green, red, blue, stuff like that. My very first one was just I think it was a blue one. But,
and that was Thermaltake. They brought that stuff out. They made it okay for us to have colorful cases with funky stuff all over, right?
Yeah, and then UV reactive cables.
That's right.
With the UV
folded cables, right? Like these braided cables, with every single one shredded so that it goes in the tube. I mean, that stuff I didn't see anyone else doing at the time but Thermaltake. So they definitely influenced the industry in a very positive way. So I think that my favorite case of all time had to be the Landfire because I kept that thing for the long. Like it wasn't the best case, Cable management was still a nightmare back then because there's no space behind
cables
there.
everywhere. Yeah.
Cables everywhere, right? But you did what you could. The motherboard of choice, like forever, is still going to be my BH6. That I will never forget that board. And I think that's one of your favorites as well too. I mean, but it wasn't the socket that I loved. It was actually the P166 MMX, because that was my first true overclocked, cooled. Like I tried all sorts of things to get it cooled down. That was when I discovered thermal paste and what it did. That was when it happened, right? So, and for me, like in terms of RAM brands, I mean, yeah, you're right. There was like all of this generic stuff out there, Hynix, like Samsung RAM modules, and Kingston, which we love a lot. They were still out there doing their thing. Taiwanese company, really good brand. But it wasn't until, and love them or hate them, but remember OCZ?
Oh, OCZ technology.
Yes.
Tobias. I remember Tobias.
Right?
Yeah.
They made RAM fun. They brought out the booth babes to all the events and everything.
That's right. They
made RAM kind of like trendy and cool, almost like an automotive company, right? It just made
that's it.
Wow.
Because they spend a lot of money on marketing, and marketing is big in the US, and
that's right.
A lot of the the Asian companies in Taiwan and Hong Kong, they don't figure out. I couldn't figure out what this whole marketing's about, but if you do it good, people will. Oh boy, they buy it. It's the same with Razer. Why did they do it? The product is just a keyboard and mouse. But boy, the marketing is done with the esports brands and stuff like that. So yeah, it works. And OCZ, they also do make power supplies. And I had some really beefy power supplies for OCZ. And they were so innovative. They had this brain neuro
interface.
Yeah. And it was crazy. Yeah, more. Go ahead.
Yeah, like that brand put out a lot of stuff out there, and I'm remembering these brands mainly because of the stories that you can tell about them. They're not a lot of them not around anymore. Thermaltake is, but the fact that they were, I think OCZ was purchased by Toshiba. They never did anything with them really, which is unfortunate. Yeah. The brand is still synonymous. Like I remember their notebook line, how it was like a DIY notebook. It was white box. You put their own RAM in and everything. They did so many really cool things that we take for granted these days, because it's like I just love the nostalgia, right? I love the stories that we can still tell that back then we used to do this, and now you're doing it now, But in terms of graphics, oh man, I'm with you, Voodoo. Yeah, Voodoo, 3DFX. That was, that was the gaming graphics.
They had towards the end of their kind of predicament. Yeah, I guess they released the Voodoo 4500, Voodoo 5000, and the Voodoo 6000. The 6000 was quite a rare thing. I did see it in photos. It wasn't in production for the general public, but they had the two Voodoo 4005 and 5000 available for the public. So the Voodoo, those range, the 4000, 5600 series, basically a dual graphics card chip on a graphics card. Back then, no such thing existed.
That's right.
It was just a crazy performance. But yeah, go ahead. Voodoo.
Yeah, like I think that with that type of experience, because I think that 3DFX was purchased by Nvidia, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So they got swallowed up. So all that technology, I guess and it took a while for this chip to really come out. I think there was like the 5900 XT Dual
before they started doing the SLI.
Yeah. So the first internal SLI card was the GTX 690, which was actually one of my first kind of, like, this is like 2000 and something now, right?
Yeah.
Like I have that card on the bench. One of the VGA ports actually blew out. It doesn't work. Part of it doesn't work anymore. But it was it's like the modern looking, like if you look at it, it's an NVIDIA card with the black and the silver and everything. Like there's no mistaking that that's an NVIDIA card. So I would have to say that probably on the VGA side, that was probably my favorite graphics card. It was also the only card that I was able to get out of Brian Del Rizzo for free. Because he never gave stuff out. Like I worked my butt off to get him to let me keep a monitor in that thing after we did a LAN party for him. Another story.
Yeah,
So funny.
But in terms of PC builds, I mean, the most expensive part is the graphics card.
It
Back
is like
then
it's
and
most
even
of it.
today.
Yeah, like it continues to go in Britain. This is before crypto, which is going to be another show. Our crypto expert Winston is going to be talking about that. Another show.
Another show, yeah. I'll get you with the ins and outs and, of course, what you need to do. But I'm not your crypto advisor, okay? Financial advisor. No. I'm just giving you some information, that's all.
That's right. I'm just like I'm a crypto dabbler, so I'm going to listen to what he has to say and ask questions for you, all right? But I guess the last thing about, PC builds and everything like that, your interface, right? How you touch the system, right? I will never forget my first optical Microsoft mouse. The very, very first one. You know, the one that looks like, it looks a whole lot like a SteelSeries white mouse. That one. That's the classic Microsoft shape, and I absolutely love that shape. I still have a bunch of them, like, somewhere, so I keep going through them because the sensors keep going bad.
Yeah.
But that was my favorite mouse. And that and the Microsoft Natural Keyboard.
Yeah, for me, I think it was the Logitech. They just started to make Logitech the gaming brands.
The GAME. Yeah, I remember that.
So I got myself one of those keyboard and mouse set, and it was okay. They didn't have anything RGB or anything like that, but they had the optical. But right now I'm using the HyperX, and that works fine. But with RGB, of course.
Yeah.
But so the optical just started off, and Logitech is, I think, the brand I took on. So yeah, it was okay.
But is there anything that in I guess in our collective minds, was there anything that really sucked horribly that people should have stayed away from? Like we've been gushing about these companies and what they've done awesome, but there's got to be some real stinkers out there that we're like, man, I wish I never recommended that.
Okay, so this company called PC Chips, heard of them?
Yeah. yes, I have. PC Chips.
The other name was PC, right?
Yeah,
because the short form, right? Well, anyway,
yep.
I think the parent company is called PC Partner.
Yes, that's right.
PC Partner also make a lot of the big brands now. In fact, they Zotac, Sapphire. Yeah, those are PC Partner. Back in the early days, PC Chips was their kind of motherboard brand. Well, they make motherboards then, and the quality was really bad. Yeah. I remember one time I tried to flash the BIOS and just killed the whole system. And there's a correct BIOS file, but anyway, it died. Another time, I think I hooked up the heatsink, but the plastic clip, the hook that goes onto the cooling fan or the mount brackets, that kind of just snapped because the quality of the plastic was so bad.
Oh,
right?
Man. Oh, man.
So one time I put the RAM in, to put the RAM in, you have to slot it in, right?
Yeah.
To take it out, you have to push the one of the locks onto the RAM out. I pushed it, and the whole thing snapped.
The whole socket came out?
No, the plastic.
The plastic piece came out.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, if the socket came out, you would be screwed because you could at least tape it back down.
Yeah, because I think at the time the PC chips were really just aimed at like cheap kind of industrial kind of and it was a kind of brand that they would know that the boards was going to get replaced every 6 months.
Oh my god,
they didn't really care. But don't recommend PC chips back then.
Wasteful though. So wasteful.
I think another brand I noticed also that's gone now, which I do like. And I think only certain areas or certain countries still have it. It's Creative.
Yes.
Yeah, I love the sound cards. Creative Sound Blasters, right? And stuff like that.
They're still around.
They're still around, but not in a lot of the areas. I think they're still in Asia. They're relaunching in America, apparently.
Yeah, they were at CES a couple of years ago, and they said they were still in the market. Like, I have a bunch of Creative headsets.
Yeah, headsets, yeah. And the other one was Diamond Multimedia, because my first super fast 56K modem, my first super fast 56K modem was actually a Diamond modem, 56K. But where are they now? Are they still around?
Diamond Multimedia, that name's like,
They
had
make also
mutual
graphics
friends.
cards for a bit. Yeah.
Well, we've had friends that have tried to help them with PR and everything, but they just kind of start and then they stop.
Yeah, which is kind of weird, right?
We've met them in CES. They come out and it's like, yeah, we're gonna make KVMs and all these kind of funky, products. Cool. All right, cool. We'll review your products, and then all of a sudden they just disappear. It's like they've just become Kodak. The name exists, but they're not the same company. And every few years they rebrand something and bring it out, and then they go away again. Like they make their money and then they leave. It's almost like a licensing company.
Oh, yeah. So a lot of people don't realize in some of the technology companies still around and they make their money, don't actually sell products. They sell or license their IPs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example like ARM, right?
Yes.
ARM Holdings. They're actually a UK company and based out in the UK, of course. Their parent company is SoftBank, which because they bought them. But they sell, in fact, they license their chip technology to all the phone companies, right, including Apple, Samsung, LG, every mobile phone you see out there that uses the chip on their phone, LTE, whatever processing, all uses or needs to pay a license to ARM.
Yeah,
that's how they make money.
And that's like when we heard that Nvidia was going to buy ARM, that was a huge deal. They backed out, obviously.
They couldn't get the regulatory approval because it's literally you're buying the whole sector, the whole mobile sector.
You've monopolized everything because guess what? If Nvidia took over that, nothing could be made without their money, without giving them money, right?
That's right.
I mean, yes, Uncle Jensen would be very happy, but dude, you don't need to. You're so successful, Uncle Jensen. You don't need that money.
But I think they're after the technology behind it because ARM uses RISC processor, right?
That's right.
For you guys who don't realize what RISC is, there are two types of processors. There's the CISC and the RISC. CISC is complex instructions, which is basically PCs, x86s, and all that kind of stuff, Intels and AMDs. Then you have the RISC-based reduced instructions, and that's like Spark and SunSpark, and all the ARM chips are found on like mobile phones, the Apple M1, the Apple M15, that kind of chips. They're all RISC based, reduced instructions, and the reason why: less heat, less wattage, less voltage. Therefore, you can run on mobile phones. The CISC is more heat, more wattage, and therefore you need massive coolers.
And unfortunately, that's where I guess Intel is right now. With trying to shrink everything down. You can't shrink it down. You have to kind of re-architect at some point.
Yeah.
And M1 is pretty cool because it's based on that thing. I wonder how they got are they still paying ARM a license fee for M1? I'm not sure.
They must do because that technology is owned by ARM. For those guys who actually don't know the history of ARM is basically Archimedes. Acorn Archimedes. Back in the 80s, that's when they developed the RISC processors. And they're still holding that IP now. So here you go. RISC.
Wow.
Part of RISC anyway. But also they use that technology or architecture. So ARM, Acorn Archimedes. Yeah. A little bit of history there.
I'm at least glad that they're like that technology's made it into cheap PCs as well too, like the Raspberry Pi. Right? I mean, people have learned how to program and do amazing things with that. I think we owe a lot of gratitude to the people that have been working with those types of devices because the code is just so clean. It runs so well on low resource devices that once they make it to the bigger metal, the bigger steel, like the M1 and everything like that, they just run so well.
I'm really interested in the future technologies such as RISC processors, right? So imagine Intel and AMD moving over to RISC type processors. I think they're working on it now. In fact, right now, last 2 weeks ago, a week ago, when Nvidia announced the GTC, and they had the process, I think it was that processor, the CPU that they had with the RISC-based technology, and I think it's called Grace CPU. But that is something which is going to be happening over the next couple of years, and we'd love to see how it will improve in terms of performance, as well as, of course, cost-wise, and whether it be compatible with all the PC stuff. So I'd love to see that.
That's a big question because, I mean, the PC enthusiast space is small, but it's very passionate. And we have a lot of custom builders out there. how will that affect that entire market if all of a sudden parts are not available for modular consumer use, right? If you have to buy every system as a complete setup, PC building is over.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So I think they will continue, but I think they might have the board and processor in one kind of item.
That makes a lot more sense. Yeah. I mean, if I could still water cool the board, if I could still put in my favorite RAM, if I could still, like SSD, everything else, put it in the case that I want to put it in, or even have the opportunity to build smaller systems that are really cool, I would be all for that. And, like it makes me think back to, how, okay, the trash can neck. Like Apple brought that out, lots of fanfare, but ultimately it was kind of a disaster because it overheated and died constantly. Right.
And you couldn't change it. You couldn't change the parts or whatever inside to make it.
It was difficult.
If you want to put a bigger fan in there or a bigger heatsink in there, or you want to change something there to make it run smoother, or cooler, whatever, you couldn't do it because
there's no space.
And it's all very proprietary, and that's one thing I don't like about Apple is that it's so proprietary that you can't change it, you can't mod it, you can't do anything with it.
Yeah, like there's got to be like, okay, Apple can do Apple stuff all day long. They serve a market. That's great, right? Because people are happy. Some people are happy. They need to be informed about where the happiness comes from and the consequences of having that happiness, like a locked-in ecosystem, inability to exit it, having to agree to everything that Apple has come up on their latest, terms of use and everything like that when you update the software and you don't read it. But, man, we can't let DIY die in the darkness.
The question is it easy to fix a PC or is it easy to fix an Apple?
It depends, right? Yeah, it depends, right? I mean, if it's just a piece of hardware that you need to replace, easy. If it's software related, oh boy.
But I do find that a lot of people end up going back to Apple to fix their products, right? But you don't see many people go and say, hey, I know how to fix an Apple. But for the PC, you can come to me or you.
Yep. Or for that matter, have you turned it on and turned it back off again? Oh, it's working now? Fantastic. I'll see you next week. Sometimes a reboot does wonders because, and get this, a lot of people have their PC set up where the updates, they run overnight, but they turn off their PC overnight. Oops.
Oh,
you never get the updates, right?
That's right.
So
there's a thing called sleep, right, for the PC. So you guys don't know, it actually works. Because if it's idle, then it goes to sleep, less power. Yeah. If there's an update happening, you can leave it on. When the update's completed, then it goes to sleep. But the screen gets switched off. So
or shut down.
The PCs are a lot greener now than it was before. So that's something that you need to know.
That is so true. And I think one of the things that can help every system, and it's just the weird Microsoft way of phrasing things, is that if you get the updates, you can set it to do all these things in the background. I just find that Microsoft should actually just prompt the person to let them know, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Let me do the thing. I'll still shut down after I'm done. Thanks. Then when you turn on the PC the next day, I'm ready to go rather than you waiting an hour for all the updates to run.
Yeah.
Right. So much easier, right? If only they would just say so. So those are some of the PC trends that we're thinking about because they cut into our PC building DIY stuff. And that's unfortunate.
Because, definitely.
Yeah, like it's one thing to, it's one thing to be able to buy a system that's ready to go, like a Mac or something like that, or even a pre-built system. And there are a lot of them out there that are really well built, especially laptops, right? I mean, even laptops these days, even though companies have been promising modular laptops for years, they're not really all that modular. And you still want a company to take care of those tiny little ball soldered jointed things in a good chassis. Like you want something durable to throw in your backpack, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think like modular laptops, like you mentioned earlier, I don't think it's going to be a big trend. I'd love to see it where you could just, in fact, in the future, I bet tell you, those SD cards, they're compact and tiny, right?
Yes.
Imagine you could just slot that as a processor type kind of upgrade.
Yeah.
That would be interesting because then imagine just slot it in. Okay, that's not powerful enough. We get this another one slotted in.
Yeah.
And that would be perfect. The board stays the same, I guess. RAM, you can again do the same thing. You just basically slot that little tiny kind of SD card shaped type of processor. Away to go. Until they kind of figure out that, I think modular PCs or laptops, I should say, won't be happening for quite a while yet. But,
yeah, like
modding.
yes, like and there's also the modding side as well too. I mean, there's a couple of companies that are looking very seriously into it, like the Framework laptop. That one is completely modular. It's a company that that Linus himself has actually invested in.
Oh, right. Okay.
So if he says anything, he always prefaces that I do own stock in it. So he does it right. But that laptop looks pretty cool. Like it's actually built by a company. I can't remember where they're based. They're US based, I think. But it's completely modular in the sense that you order the base configuration and then you can plug in like different USB port configurations. You can change the screen, you can change the bezel. You can do a lot of repairability with it. All the parts you can order and replace. It's going to be a lot more money than a standard PC laptop. And the build quality is not bad, but it's not the same as an aluminum MacBook or something like that.
True,
but the technology is existing now. Yeah. You can put a 12th gen CPU inside it, put a battery in it, change that battery. That exists. I know that Dell is toying with that concept as well too, but I don't think Dell wants to sell you parts. They want to sell systems.
They sell systems. So and also the warranty.
And the warranty as well too.
It comes with warranty. Well, 1 year, that's not enough. Buy 2 years warranty, it'll cost you like $200 or $300.
Yeah, like they want to push that stuff off. They don't want to be able to deal with you until you buy your next system. Right? I mean, even if they offered like some sort of hey, this PC will be upgraded for life. You can upgrade for a monthly fee, like a subscription to own that PC, but it's always upgraded every year.
Oh, bit like what do you call them? The car leasing kind of model where you don't actually own the car, but you're paying monthly to drive the car for like 2 to 3 years.
Yeah,
and then when the new model comes out, you're just paying the monthly rental.
You keep paying the same fee every single month.
Yeah,
that might not be such a bad way for a creator, right?
Hey, listen, how much a graphics card these days, right? If you want to buy a system with graphics card for content creating and stuff like that, you're looking at over $3,000, $4,000.
Oh yeah,
for a PC, right?
And guess what? You can't even buy the GPU by itself right now because in order for a retailer to be allocated like enough GPUs to be sold, they have to bundle it with a motherboard and everything like that to build value.
Yeah. Or the whole system. You buy the whole system. So why invest in $3,000, $4,000 to buy a system for content creating? Within 3 years later, that hardware will be out of date anyway, right?
Yeah, like so I almost see that. Yeah, like it's a good idea. It's actually not a bad idea. I know people hate that because it's like a licensing software. Like I pay Adobe $70 a month for the Adobe suite.
I pay
every single month.
$50. I pay $50. Yeah.
So every month we have to pay for that, right? And what happened to having a release every couple of years? Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, since getting the subscription, I've actually been less upset at the software, and I'm getting a lot more features.
You're getting updates for free. Any security patches, all done it, and of course, any. It's basically full service. And if you want to try different software to go into your portfolio, then you can try that free. And of course, use it and take it off or have you. It's basically a very cloud experience.
Yeah,
I would say. And I like that about that.
I do like the fact that I can try everything. I just wish there was a way for me to not have to license all the software at once. I know it's probably cheaper for them to do that. But I wish that, if I wanted to just do video editing this month, I just need this package.
Right. Okay.
Would be nice. Would be nice.
Yeah. So basically a kind of a different tier type of service,
I would like a tiered service. Yeah, because some people that use only Photoshop, they have that available to them. My best deal, because there's like a $20 difference between, I think it's $20, between like the full-blown package and just the video editing basic sliver. I might as well just get everything and try it out. But I really don't want that. Well, and I wish there was more granularity. I think the cloud-based kind of tier service is going to be a big thing over the next couple of years, because even Xbox are doing it, and even GeForce Now. Yeah. GeForce Now are offering your first tier service where you're able to select a GeForce 3090, an RTX 3090, if you want to go first tier level, which gives you that kind of like RTX 3090 experience right in front of your TV. But of course, if you think about it, an RTX 3090, how many hours are you going to use it in a day? You might as well just license a slice of it when you need it. Yeah, and how much does it cost you to buy one? It costs you like $3,000. Yeah, 2,000 easily. 2,000 if it's not scalped. Right? Yeah, and now you pay. I can't remember what the pricing is for the GeForce Now, but you're getting the same RTX 3090 experience on your TV. You're getting the gaming as well, so why not? Yeah, I definitely think that it's a different way of thinking about your purchases, your total cost of ownership, because it might feel good to own something outright, but if you don't use it enough, you never pay for it. That's right. You're not going to get your money back. Well, worth back. So I only buy with stuff which I need to use on a regular basis. For example, I've said to myself, right now I need a 30 series graphics card, a G4 RTX 30 series. But for me to get one, which is a 3090, which I'll bring, it's going to cost me $1,500. Yeah. Right? I'm not going to buy that, $1,500, just to test some hardware. Hell no. There's no way I'm going to spend $1,500 just to test some hardware, which will probably be maybe once a week. I'm not even using it to game. So I'm not going to buy $1,500 worth of graphics card just to test stuff. That's crazy. But if you're a gamer, to be honest with you, a 3060 is good enough. You don't need a 3090 or 3080. No. What's the point? I just wish there was some way to physically give it back every hour. Cloud? Oh, you mean like license it out? Cloud. Like if I buy one now, I can loan it to you. You pay me $50 a week, right? It's like Turo for your car. Share it. Yeah. Hey, Steve, here you go. I'll give you my 30. If I buy one, a 3090, okay? I'm gonna loan it out to you for $50 a week. Is that okay? That's actually better than me buying it. But I'll need it back anytime, though. I'll put it in my mailbox. You come get it. But having it's like the software. If you think about it, it's not that bad, because if you don't have to pay $1,000 a year to license it, I mean it's a lot of money. But if you're making money from the software, you're okay, right? That's just an expense. Okay. Different way of thinking about things. Just hope the things don't break, and if it breaks, are you going to be volunteering to fix my computer? Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah. So on that note, I think we've done enough of the computer stuff today. So hope you enjoy our show. And what's your socials? Share your content, Steve. What's going on there? Well, I'm going to be on @StephenFung, and also @StephenFung on Instagram and Twitter. I'm pretty much that everywhere because I got it early. And it's just let me know. I do different stuff on there. It's not computer stuff all the time, but now that you know I do computer stuff, please don't bother me all the time to fix your computer. I would love to talk to you about other things. You can bother me, but I won't be on there either. Actually, no. I'm on at Winston Chim as Instagram, as well as Twitter as well at Winston Chim. So on that, we'll see lots of other content apart from tech. But if you want more content on tech stuff, just hit up on the comment section there. Of course, send us an email. It's our podcast show @gmail.com. But of course, this show will include, future shows will include lots of content, including non-tech stuff. And I'm really interested, of course, in the green tech, which, of course, Stephen has been running around on his EV. We'll have a dedicated show on the EV tech of course, future stuff relating with and NFTs tech. And crypto as well, too, NFT because cryptos. Our resident user and abuser of crypto and NFT, It's a very hot topic, and a lot of people are losing money, not understanding the space. So please subscribe so you can tune into that show. And we want to make sure that we answer your questions as well too. So if you have those questions, Winston already told you that email address is in the description, and we'll make sure that we put some of the best questions up there and try to address those for you.
Okay. Until
That's
then,
everything.
That's it. So have a great day, and we'll see you in our next show.